Sokovia, a small fictional country in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This day was destined to be the saddest day in Sokovia's history. A brutal rebellion swept across the land. Boom! 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 The bomber whizzed past, the explosions continued one after another, and buildings were blown into ruins. People fled frantically, but in the end they were either blown to pieces or crushed into flesh by the collapsed house. Sokovia is a small inland European country surrounded by mountains on three sides. The total area is actually equivalent to a slightly larger city. The only connections to the outside world are the East Plain and the tributaries of the Danube River. There used to be an airport, but now it's in ruins. The port and the road to the east were also destroyed by the huge firepower, and all life paths were cut off. Because Sokovia is small and backward in all aspects, and has never had a war with its neighbors in history, facilities such as bomb shelters have not received the attention of the Sokovia government. With the exception of a very lucky few who were able to hide in the dugout before it was full, more than 90% of the Sokovians had to wait to die. Fake. Why did I travel to Sokovia at this time? Outside the last bomb shelter that was forced to close due to the crowd, a 12-year-old blonde boy thought with tears in his eyes. The boy's name is Raphael, but Raphael is not the boy he is now. To put it simply, he is a transmigrator. It doesn't matter who he is in his previous life. Anyway, he now occupies the body of this boy named Raphael. As for the boy's parents, they had already died in the last wave of bombing. Raphael crossed over about 10 minutes ago, and as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a scene like the end of the world. He subconsciously followed the crowd and fled, and only then did he know where he was by scratching his original memory along the way. Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sokovia. What's even more terrifying is that this world is not a pure Marvel Cinematic Universe, and there are many existences that do not belong to this world mixed into it. Like Gotham City. Fortunately, there is no metropolis in this world and no Midtown Star City or anything like that. In this world with a very high risk factor, it is almost impossible to live without a golden finger. It is difficult for even the most ordinary people to survive, and Sokovia is the best example. Raphael naturally has his own golden finger, but this golden finger cannot actually help him. Current family template: the Pengele family, head of the family, Raphael Pengele ability, Big Sky attribute, Death Chi fire, unawakened family member, none. The current system is not activated. Please complete the novice task to activate the system. After activation, you will be rewarded with a novice gift bag. Newbie task: find the first family member. That's right, Raphael's system is currently in a banned state and has no functions. However, from the brief information, it can be understood that this is probably a system that needs to rely on the strengthening of the family to obtain rewards. The family template is also a very familiar existence to Raphael. In the previous animation tutor, all major events revolved around this family. The Pengele family possesses a supernatural idealistic power called the Flame of Death, as well as countless black technologies developed based on the Flame of Death, such as death bombs, deathly pills, Pengele box weapons, Pengele gears, Mosca battle droid, Ring of Death. The most important of them is undoubtedly the Ring of Vengeance, which is one of the 7 cubes that embodies the rules of the tutoring world, and represents the death fire of the 7 attributes of the sky. If you can bring all of these to this world and develop them to the extreme, then Raphael will definitely have a place in this movie universe, and maybe he will become a big boss, doing things he never thought of before. Matter. If all the cubes of 7 can be collected, plus Simon's ring representing the 7 flames of the earth and the flame of the night, which is the 8th attribute, then there will not be many threats to Raphael's existence. Don't think that tutoring is a low-level world, it's just because the appearance of the daily routine deceives your eyes. The most typical performance is that in the ring battle, he has not yet got the Pengele ring to ignite the fire of death, and only received 1 week of training and hit the extreme sun to destroy a gym. Before that, he was just a player. Middle school students, at most, just like to play boxing. In terms of technology, there is a very unscientific existence of a teen-air bazooka. In the early stage of the plot, it was like this. In the later stage, no matter how you think about it, it is beyond the specification. If the performance is not obvious, it can only be said that Amano's mind is not on depicting the combat power. All in all, Raphael is looking forward to his future, but the first thing to do is to activate the system. Only. Hearing the continuous roaring sounds around him, Raphael sighed. Don't talk about finding family members. Now I'm afraid that even surviving is difficult. If only I could travel to a farm in Kansas. Wait, the farm? Raphael suddenly slapped his forehead, he actually forgot such an important thing. Doesn't Sokovia have a legendary farm? This is the edge of the urban area, which is a great fortune in misfortune. Now that the war has just started, the primary bombing targets will only be airports, military bases, key departments, traffic arteries, and the like, which means I still have time. Thinking of this, Raphael immediately squeezed out of the crowd. Even if he hid outside the door of the bomb shelter, he would not be able to escape the bombing. The inside and outside of the door were equivalent to two worlds. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com rather than waiting here to die, it's better to run out and try your luck. Even if you really die, it's still your own choice, right? There is a farm on the northern outskirts of Sokovia. The owners of the farm are the Maximovs and their twin daughters. The small house next to the farm is where the Maximov family lives. Since the farm is far away from the urban area, and there is only one family nearby, it has not been bombed yet. At the same time, they are also trapped here. To the south is the urban area, and to the north is a sinister valley. As early as the very beginning, they were bombed by the enemy for a round, and now there is no way to go. The Maximov family could only stay at home. Mom, are we going to die? Daughter Wanda asked timidly. She was snuggling tightly in her mother's arms, and the roar outside made her a lot frightened. It's okay, Wanda, we haven't done anything bad, and God will not abandon his people. The mother hugged Wanda, stretched out her hand and stroked her daughter's hair comfortingly. Really? Well, if Wanda prayed sincerely, maybe an angel would come to save you. The mother coaxed her daughter softly. Wanda, mother won't lie to you. Aside, Pietro calmly said, as a brother, he can't easily panic like his sister, but from his pale face and trembling hands, it can be seen that he is not as calm as he seems. The father is very satisfied with Pietro's performance, and keeping calm in times of crisis is a must for a man. Although Pietro is still very young, he believes that his son will have great achievements in the future. The premise is, they still have a future. Old Maximov buried his worries deep in his eyes. He is the head of the family and the hope of the whole family. Dad, who are those people? Why are they attacking us? Pietro lowered his head and asked in a deep voice. He felt a burning anger in his heart, an anger that could not be quelled. At this moment, young Pietro didn't know that this anger had a name: hatred. Neither of the Maximovs noticed the rising hatred in their son's heart, and they could only shake their heads at the son's question. They are just small farmers, the war is too far away from them, how can they know the reason why Sokovia was attacked? I don't know why they are attacking here, my son, I only know that these people are from the Commonwealth, a powerful and terrifying country. Federal. Pietro took the country firmly in his heart. What no one knows is that Wanda, who was huddled in her mother's arms, also recorded it. Boom! Suddenly, a huge explosion sounded, and the strong shock wave shook the house to the brink, and the pillars supporting the house were almost broken. The mother held her two children in her arms for the first time, and the husband also protected his wife at the same time. Fortunately, the farm was not in the center of the explosion, and they survived by luck. Quick, hide under the bed. The father shouted loudly that this was the only thing they could do. Mother hurriedly asked Wanda and Pietro to get under the bed, a small bed specially made for the brothers and sisters. After the two little guys got into it, there would be no extra space. The master bedroom had been utterly destroyed in the explosion just now. Dad? Mom? Wanda and Pietro asked worriedly. The two parents smiled gently, indicating that they would be fine. However, the truth is often cruel. In the next second, a missile bearing the Stark Industries trademark fell from the sky, went straight through the ceiling, and smashed into the mother of the Wanda brothers and sisters. A living person was instantly smashed into flesh by a missile weighing more than 10 tons. Boom! In the next second, my father was also buried under the falling ceiling. The sight of their parents' tragic death left the brothers and sisters stunned for a moment, not knowing whether it belonged to their mother or their father's. Flesh and blood splashed on their faces. Wanda wanted to scream loudly, but there was no sound coming out of his open mouth, only 2 lines of tears poured out of his eyes. Fear, grief, despair. Countless negative emotions filled Wanda's heart, forcing her to even have difficulty breathing. Pietro also shed tears in silence. Fortunately, the missile didn't explode, saving the two of them their lives. Pietro. Dad. Mom, all dead. When will it be our turn? Wanda sobbed. Don't worry, don't worry. Have you forgotten what Mother said? God will not abandon us. Pietro actually wants to continue crying, but he understands that now only his brother can rely on Wanda. Even before the end of his life, he will do his best to protect and comfort his sister. This is him. Awareness. Is there really a in the world, then why doesn't he protect Mom and Dad? Pietro was silent. Some things can't be learned with determination and consciousness. He was still young and didn't know how to comfort Wanda at all. Is there anyone inside? Answer me quickly. Suddenly, a strange boy's voice came from outside the house. Wanda and Pietro looked at each other, wondering if they should respond. Then they heard a bang, dong, dong. Outside the house, Raphael looked at the collapsed Maximov's house with a burning heart. It has been more than an hour since he arrived here from the city, and the people inside may have been taken away. He found an axe, found the wall with the largest gap, and chopped it. Fortunately, the axe blade is sharp enough, the wall is also a wooden wall, and because the previous explosion has become fragile, Raphael can cut the wall. Raphael slashed for more than 10 minutes with the strength of sucking milk, and finally cut a hole for the child's body to enter and exit, and then he drilled in from here. As soon as he entered the room, the strong smell of blood poured into his nostrils, and then he saw 2 blurred puddles of flesh. Yuck! Rao was Raphael, who was used to seeing corpses along the way, and couldn't help retching at this moment. He forced himself to calm down. You, who are you? Raphael looked around and saw 2 children lying under the bed. As soon as he saw the striking white and red hair, Raphael knew that they were the family members he was looking for. The future Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Don't be afraid, I'm not a bad person, come with me, it's very dangerous here. Raphael said with a serious face. He said this sentence from the bottom of his heart. Although they have been hiding here and will not die, they will be taken away by Baron Strucker of Hydra after the war as his experimental subjects. According to Hydra's behavior, the brothers and sisters do not know how many brutal experiments they have to undergo before they can awaken their own power. He admitted that he wanted to intercept Baron Hustrak, but now that he saw the poor brothers and sisters, he suddenly had the idea of wanting to protect them. Trust me. A mysterious power gushed out from Raphael's body. Although he didn't notice it at all, the Wanda brothers and sisters across from him felt a sense of warmth from him. The original sadness, fear, doubt, hatred, and despair miraculously calmed down. This is unique to the flames of the sky, the affinity that can accommodate everything, and allows people to trust him from the heart. However, Raphael's flames of the sky have not fully awakened, so Wanda and Pietro will still be wary of him. Wanda and Pietro crawled out from under the bed, and their emotions had gradually stabilized. The three of them got out of the hole that Raphael had drilled into. Looking at the city from here, the bombing continued, and the whole city was almost razed to the ground. My name is Raphael, and I just escaped from the city. Raphael introduced himself. The brothers and sisters were shocked when they heard the words. Raphael looked 2 years older than them, but if they were in the city and faced the overwhelming explosion, I'm afraid they wouldn't even dare to take a step, let alone run to the farm is here. Looking at Raphael, who was covered in dirt and torn clothes, they suddenly had a sense of admiration. Are you alone? Where's your family? Wanda asked. No, Wanda. Pietro quickly grabbed Wanda, and she woke up instantly. If the parents are still alive, who would be willing to let their children face life and death alone? For a time, the two brothers and sisters felt pity for Raphael, and invisibly narrowed the distance between them. It's nothing, I won't mind, it's a fact after all, my family has died in the bombing. Raphael said calmly, he may sympathize with the passing of life, but if he wants to feel the pain for someone he doesn't know, he really can't feel the same. You look optimistic. Wanda asked curiously. You reading www.yuyuganshu.com. There was a person who taught me. Raphael did not answer Wanda directly, but showed her a gentle smile. No matter what happens, if you want to make yourself and the people around you happy, you must show a smile to others. At this moment, Wanda began to believe what her mother said. Mom, the angel really came to save me. I'm Pietro Maximoff, this is my sister Wanda. At this moment, Pietro suddenly took a step forward, slightly sideways to block Wanda. You guys, have you thought about where to go next? Raphael asked. Pietro shook his head in confusion. Then why don't you follow me first? Raphael suggested kindly. I lost my original family, and so do you. We have the same fate. It's better to act together than separate, right? Pietro and Wanda looked at each other, not knowing why, they were willing to trust this peer they just met. Come and be my family, Wanda. Pietro. Raphael stretched out his hands to the two of them and said sincerely. Wanda seemed to have made up a certain determination. After looking at Pietro, he held Raphael's left hand. I would like to be your family, Raphael. Although Pietro didn't speak, he had already held Raphael's right hand. At this moment, a voice that only Raphael could hear sounded. The goal of finding the first family member has been achieved. The novice gift package has been issued, do you want to open it? Turn on! Raphael shouted eagerly in his heart. In view of the fact that the host has recruited 2 family members with great potential at one time, the system determines that the host has a high leader qualification, and the novice spree reward will increase. Anything like this? A flash of joy flashed in Raphael's eyes. He thought that the system let him cross here just to test whether he could abduct him, recruiting Wanda and Pietro. It seems that is not the case now. The novice spree is open. Congratulations to the host for obtaining super intuitive, lean, and Pengele gloves. Super intuition, the super intuition inherited from Pengele's blood, has the ability to see through the truth of things, to judge the truth of things, to expose the disguise of the enemy, to detect the maliciousness of others, and to decipher illusions and strengthen the ability to learn. After the introduction, Raphael suddenly felt a strange but indescribable change in the world around him. He looked at Wanda and Pietro, and instinctively thought that the 2 brothers and sisters had no ill will towards him. This is super intuitive, extremely dangling intuition. To a certain extent, this ability is what leaders need most. It can ensure that their forces will not be infiltrated by undercover spies, and even if there are traitors among their subordinates, they can quickly detect them. Only when the interior is solid and united, can the leader let go of his hand and make a big picture without any worries. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible to achieve this, because no one can guarantee the loyalty of all subordinates, and there will always be mouse that will ruin a pot of porridge. But the existence of super-intuition makes this impossible possible. Len, a shape memory chameleon, it can change into any shape it has ever remembered that doesn't exceed its size, such as a pistol. It can produce a death bomb every 3 days of sleep. Pengele gloves, the exclusive weapon of Pengele, only when it enters the super death mode will it show its true posture. Len and I gloves are temporarily placed in the system space, and they will be taken out when needed. Unlock the first stage of the main quest, founding a family, expand the family to more than 5 members and own a family residence, and complete the reward half Pengele ring. There is no limit to the task time. There is no limit to the selection of family members. Raphael's eyes lit up. The 7 Pengele rings are the tokens of the heirs of the Pengele family. They are kept by the boss and the 6 guardians respectively. They are also the keys to ignite the fire of death and open the box weapons. Although the reward is only half a set, but it is an indispensable key prop for Raphael. But soon he began to be troubled. Even if he regarded the leader as a family member, there were only 3 of them. Where can the remaining 2 members be found in the family residence? Forget it, it's useless to think about it now. Raphael shook his head. The sky was getting dark, and 3 young figures were walking through the dense forest. Raphael, where are we going now? Wanda asked in confusion. It had been 3 hours since they left Maximov's farm, plus the few hours it took Raphael to get to the farm. Sokovia has been under continuous bombardment for more than 10 hours, until the sound of the explosions gradually subsided not long ago. 3 hours ago, after Raphael successfully pulled the Wanda brothers and sisters in, he pulled them out of the farm. Others don't know, but he knows very well that after the bombing is over, Hydra will come out to clean up the mess and take Wanda and Pietro away. If you don't hurry up and run, can you really be a guinea pig for Baron Strucker? Now Sokovia is dangerous, we can't stop here. Raphael explained to Wanda as he walked forward. All roads connecting the city to the outside world have been blocked by enemy troops, and we can only leave here from the Sava River. The Sava River is a tributary of the Danube and the only river that flows through the whole of Sokovia. However, since we don't have a boat, how can we cross the river? Hearing this, Pietro raised a key question. The port of Sokovia was destroyed in the first wave of bombing, and even if a few ships survived, they would have been driven away long ago. We have no choice, we have nowhere else to go but this road. Raphael reluctantly said, if it really can't be done, just make a raft or something to cross the river. The Sokovia bombing incident was bizarre from beginning to end, and Raphael suspected that it was very likely that Hydra was at work behind it. First of all, Baron Strucker needs a quiet and secret experimental base, and even more needs a place to continuously supply him with experimental subjects. At present, Hydra has not penetrated into the inner core of countries in the world. If a large number of people disappear, it will undoubtedly affect the progress of the Hydra infiltration plan. Then the best solution is naturally to let Hydra own a country, and this country has to be a little transparent internationally, so that it won't attract attention. Obviously, Sokovia is the perfect choice. Regardless of whether Raphael's guess is true or not, it is impossible for Hydra to take Wanda and Pietro after the war. In case of a collision with the Hydra team, there is no reason to only catch the Wanda brothers and sisters and let Raphael go. ERs. Just go through the bushes ahead and go 2 miles southeast to the river bank. Pietro looked at the surrounding environment. He used to take this road when he and his father went fishing in the river. He knew exactly where he went. Raphael breathed a sigh of relief. He had already reached this point, so he shouldn't have run into the Hydra. He stepped forward, preparing to clear the bushes in front of him. At this moment, the sound of leaves being trampled came. Shasha, shasha. Raphael's complexion suddenly changed, and his outstretched hand was instantly fixed in midair, and he was in shock. Someone's here? Who is it? Why didn't I feel it? The hyper-intuition has failed? Did the system give me a fake hyper-intuition? Shasha. Shasha. Raphael opened his eyes wide, and the voice was getting closer. Wanda and Pietro's faces turned pale, their hands tightly covering their mouths, for fear of accidentally making a sound. Len. Raphael released Len from the system space. Now it is very dark and it is in the bushes. Although the climate here is not suitable for chameleons to breed, it is not completely impossible for a chameleon to appear. But Wanda and Pietro were so scared now that they didn't notice Leon's appearance at all. Then, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Raphael put on the gloves. Although the true power of the gloves can only be exerted by entering the super death mode, even the ordinary eye gloves have the characteristics of indestructibility, and they have the hardness that anti-equipment sniper rifles cannot penetrate. Different from the knitted finger style of the 10th glove, the Pengele eye glove is a pair of leather fingerless gloves, similar to the tactical gloves of the Special Forces. After getting ready, Raphael held his breath, waiting for the opponent's possible approach. San, the sound became more and more obvious, and Raphael's face moved. This sound was not like the sound of people stepping on leaves, but more like the sound of heavy objects dragging on the ground. The closer you get, the more complex the voices become, which means there are a lot of people on the other side. The IQs of the three of them are beyond their apparent age, and it is easy to think of this. They are even more afraid to move casually. In this quiet environment, the slightest sound will be infinitely amplified. After another 10 seconds, a faint smell of blood floated over. Raphael instantly realized that the other party was either injured or already dead. Most of the dragged items are wounded or corpses. Tread, tread, tread. This time it's real footsteps. And it's very close. Raphael even felt that the bushes in front of him were shaking, as if being pushed away by someone. Wanda and Pietro covered their mouths tightly, forcing themselves to lower their bodies and stay still. They knew that no matter how scared they were, they couldn't make a sound. But in the end, the man on the opposite side didn't completely clear the bushes, and he didn't seem to find Raphael and the others. The next second, a strange man's voice rang out, and the voice was not far from Raphael. The bastard, Anafi, he actually betrayed Sokovia. I knew a long time ago that he is an incompetent and jealous idiot, Colonel Zima. He has been suppressing you to prevent you from being promoted, just for fear that you will take away his status. Raphael said that he could hear the unspeakable anger of the speaker, and he could already feel the tympanic membranes of both ears vibrating. But I never thought that Oneface would betray his country and become a running dog of the Federation. Calm down, Johnny. Another man's voice sounded. It was the so-called Colonel Zima. Even Oneface has rebelled. Sokovia doesn't know how many enemy ghosts there are. At this time, you must not let anger go to your head. Listening to the conversation between the two, Raphael's heart was filled with waves, because the name Zima was so familiar to him. Helmut Zima, the famous Baron Zima, don't think he is just an ordinary person in the movie universe, but his scheming layout is not much better than Nick Fury. Under his calculation, the Avengers, the Alliance, was completely divided, which indirectly led to the ending of the Earth's combat power being dispersed and completely crushed by Thanos during the Infinity War. Talent, top talent. This is definitely the best candidate for a family member. It is nice to say that there are no restrictions on personnel in the mission, but Raphael is very clear that every family member of Pengele has a special meaning, and not just any subordinate can be called for family members. Moreover, once the family members are determined, it is impossible to replace them. Even if Raphael can be replaced, he cannot do such a thing as changing the family members at will, so the selection must be carefully considered. More than 10 years later, the Battle of Sokovia killed Zima's family. After that, he hated superpowers extremely. In other words, Zima is only a colonel of the elite commando of Sokovia, and depending on your age, you may not even have a family yet. Although it is not realistic for Zima to follow a half-old child, one must have a goal in life. Raphael continued to eavesdrop on the conversations of Zima and others, and gained a lot of information from it. Not long ago, just after the bombing was over, a mysterious force appeared out of nowhere and attacked Sokovia, fighting with the defenders of Sokovia. However, at the moment of the fierce battle between the two sides, the former general of Sokovia, Anafi, betrayed on the spot, and the spies who had already been ambushed by the officers of Sokovia started at the same time. Fortunately, Colonel Zima was quick to react and escaped by luck, but there were only 4 team members left, one of whom was still wounded, and he had to rely on Johnny to move on his back when he lost his mobility. Actually, what I'm most worried about is that the object of Anaface's refuge is not the Federation. Zima said in a heavy tone. What do you mean? He's not a running dog of the Federation. Does he want to stand on his own? Johnny asked inexplicably that the air force that bombed Sokovia was definitely a federal army. Although the army that appeared behind did not put up the federal flag or wear American military uniforms, it was only natural that it should be the federal army. If he is not the lackey of the Federation, who else can he be? Unless one of us is so arrogant that he thinks he can repel the enemy and become the ruler of Sokovia by virtue of this war, which is clearly a dream. No, Johnny, it's not that simple, Zima shook his head and said, although Oneface is not very talented, he is not stupid. He knows that he can't defeat the federal army. Speaking of this, Zima paused. What really makes me suspicious is another thing, have you noticed? The equipment that they used in the army that fought with us before was very wrong. I think I know a little bit about the armaments of various countries in the world, but I have never seen the firearms used by those people. They are undoubtedly the standard weapons that have been established, and these weapons are very advanced, so advanced that even it is also impossible for the Federation to equip soldiers on a large scale. Johnny seems to be a little simple-minded, but when Zima said this, he already understood what Zima meant. The more advanced the weapon is, the more expensive its manufacturing and maintenance costs will be. The Federation is not a fool with a lot of money, and it is impossible to do business at a loss. Sokovia has neither oil fields nor rich minerals. Such a small country with poor resources is usually not qualified to even let the Federation take a look. Why should the Federation spend a lot of money using the most advanced equipment? To hone soldiers? Test weapon performance? Although it is not impossible, but the Army and the Federation's elite air force with mysterious advanced equipment. You can't go wrong, it must be Hydra. Unlike Zima, Raphael, who has an advantage in the plot, knew that Hydra was behind the war. Baron Strucker's base is in Germany, so the US military should be Pierce's. Now Raphael is no longer worried about safety. Everyone is from Sokovia, and he has 3 children on his side. Zima will not be detrimental to them. Zima and his teammates are still talking, but Raphael has no intention of listening anymore. They don't even know the existence of Hydra, and naturally they don't have any important information. Raphael thought about it for a while, and decided to go out and meet Zima. It is best to follow them. Zima will definitely not die here, otherwise there will be no Avengers Civil War, and there will be no major problems with him. Len. Raphael let Len climb into his sleeve, head toward his wrist. Then, Leon stuck out his tongue and put something rolled on the tip of his tongue on Raphael's palm. It was a red bullet. It is also Raphael's biggest support at present. Raphael held the bullet in his hand, with it, reading www.yuyuganshu.com itself has the same means of self-protection. I'm going to talk to them. You stay here and don't move. Don't panic even if you are discovered. Raphael lowered his voice and said to the Wanda brothers and sisters. Wanda looked at Raphael with worried eyes, and the latter gave her a reassuring smile. Pietro took Wanda's hand and gestured to Raphael not to worry about them. Raphael nodded, he turned around, took a deep breath, stretched out his hand and gently pushed away the bushes in front of him. Who? The movement of the grass instantly caught the attention of Zima and others. Zima suddenly took out his pistol and aimed it at Raphael's position. The rest of the team members also took up their weapons. Those with guns drew their guns, and those without guns had bright knives. Everyone held their breath and stared intently at the half-a-man-high bush. Until they saw a little boy come out. "Who are you?" In 2 lifetimes, Raphael was the first time that so many guns were pointed at his head. It was impossible not to be nervous. He asked cautiously. "A child." No one answered Raphael's words. Almost everyone present was surprised by Raphael's age, and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. "But the search is still a search. Colonel, there are 2 children here, no trace of the enemy has been found yet." Wanda and Pietro were found to be what Raphael expected. If they let their guard down when they saw Raphael, they would not be called an elite commando. Even though the team members reported that no danger was found around, Zima still maintained the highest level of caution, staring at Raphael and asking slowly. "Tell me, child, what's your name?" "Raphael Pengele." Raphael said his full name generously, and then boldly asked Zima. "You are Helmut Zima, right? My father used your name a lot when he was alive. He thought you were the best commander in Sokovia. You shouldn't just be a colonel." This is not Raphael's nonsense. He inherited the memory of his original body. "My father is a soldier who was discharged due to injury. Although he is not a member of the Zima Commando, he is sincere about the colonel's talent." "Admiration. You know me?" Zima was a little surprised. He wasn't a big star, and he didn't like to show his face. Logically, no one should know about his little colonel, especially a kid like Raphael. "Yes, sir, my father used to be a soldier." Raphael told all the stories about his father in the original body's memory. It's a pity that Zima didn't know Raphael's father, otherwise the relationship between the two would have been easier. After all, they're not from the same army, so it's normal that they don't know each other. But at least it can make Zima's attitude towards Raphael and others much gentler. "Are they your younger siblings?" Zima looked at Wanda and Pietro and asked. "They are my family," Raphael replied speciously. Zima nodded, then suddenly asked, "Where are your parents?" His voice was not loud, but it was very penetrating, and Wanda and Pietro in the distance also heard Zima's words. Wanda's eyes turned red all of a sudden, and she remembered the tragedy when her parents died. Pietro's face turned pale, and a pair of small fists clenched tightly. Even Raphael's face sank, not because of sadness, but because of the indescribable rotten meat. Seeing the performance of a few people, no matter how stupid people are, they know what's going on. "Feel sorry." Although he said sorry, Zima's tone didn't seem apologetic at all. Raphael was suspicious, Zima was doubting himself. Why? Flickering before. It was obviously easy to persuade the Wanda brothers and sisters. He thought that his own flame of the sky was showing signs of awakening, but it turned out that it was not easy to use Zima. Thinking about it carefully, the super intuition seems to have failed just now. Could it be that this guy has some special immune system superpower? Raphael was vigilant in his heart. Len, who was hiding in his sleeve, seemed to feel the emotion of his master, and his whole body tensed up. Of course, this is not the case. Wanda and Pietro believe that Raphael has a small part of the reason for the flames of the sky, but it is more because they are too young, and Raphael is also very kind. The characteristics of the flames of the sky just make it easier for people to feel close, not unconditional and unreasonable trust. Zima will naturally not be affected by the flames of the unawakened sky. Zima was not hostile to Raphael, and it was normal for Raphael not to feel it. However, this situation also made Raphael realize a problem that was ignored by him. How could he convince Zima to join his family and recognize himself as the boss if he was just a little kid? At the same time, Zima was also muttering in his heart. The 3 children who suddenly appeared in the barren mountains and ridges were still in the chaos of war. They came here instead of running into the air raid shelter. No matter how they thought about it, it was suspicious. Even a decades-old general like Boniface has been turned against, and it is not impossible to bribe a few children to be traitors. Well, Zima admitted that he was a little too nervous, but at this time, you can sail the ship with care. It's a long way from the city, why are you escaping here? We want to get out of here from the Saur River. There is no better escape route than here. Raphael said calmly, although I am young, this does not mean that I am not smart. Since the enemy has dispatched large-scale bombers, this military operation must have a careful plan, and other routes will definitely be blocked. Only the long and narrow Saur River is difficult to achieve complete blockade. And this area is lush with lush vegetation and many shelters. We are not tall and suitable for hiding, just like that person just didn't find us. Raphael turned his eyes to Johnny, and turned to see the latter blushing ashamed. Came back. I think, you should have the same idea as us when you go down this road. Even if you can't fool Zima into joining the team now, you have to act with them, at least the chances of survival will be much improved. Zima's eyelids twitched, this child. Many air defense facilities have been built in the city. Why don't you fear dying on the road if you don't take refuge inside? Raphael smiled, Colonel Zima, this question of yours seems to be asked by a child. The number of air raid shelters is limited, and the powerful people are not crowded enough. How can we get our turn? Zima was silent. Even a small country like Sokovia still has class problems, maybe even more serious than other countries. Are you doubting us by asking so many questions, Colonel? Raphael looked at Zima with calm eyes and asked. Of course not. Zima suddenly showed a big smile, you reading www.uuganshu. Although calm is not enough to scare people to death, it is enough to make people very uncomfortable. Even the members of the commando team shivered. I can't believe it, the colonel actually laughed, did you see it? I've got goosebumps. Johnny is the most exaggerated, his whole face looks a little distorted, like a marijuana flower that bursts with one bite. We are all soldiers of Sokovia, and it is our mission to protect every Sokovian, let alone 3 poor children. Zima stood up, the smile he just showed was instantly put away, and his face turned straight. Ready to go. Jack, Tom, you two are responsible for protecting these 3 children. Johnny, you are responsible for carrying Love on your back. Zima ordered with a cold face. Jack and Tom are the other 2 players, and Love is the name of the wounded. Raphael looked at these people, Jack was thin and tall, Tom was big but not as tall as Jack. As for Love's body size, he was in between the 2. His injury was on his right leg and his knee was shot through by a bullet. Even if he finally escaped, he might not be able to stand up in his life. What? But I also carried Love just now. Shouldn't it be Jack now? Johnny howled with dissatisfaction. Zima said nothing, just looked at him coldly. Under this line of sight, Johnny's voice became smaller and smaller until he closed his mouth completely, then ran obediently and carried Love on his back. Raphael returned to Wanda and Pietro, and the 3 followed Jack and Tom together. The group moved towards the planned direction. After the conversation just now, Wanda was no longer so afraid. Because of this, Wanda began to observe Raphael carefully, with unspeakable admiration in his eyes. She never thought that a child of the same age could talk to an adult on such an equal footing, and she was a particularly terrifying adult. Zima has the chilling temperament of a soldier, and ordinary children really don't dare to say a word in front of him. Mom said that angels would come to save us, and then when I was most afraid, Brother Raphael appeared. If there really is an angel in the world, it must be Brother Raphael. Brother Raphael's face is so white, even better than Wanda's. Are all angels so beautiful? Wanda was thinking wildly in her small head, and she couldn't look away from Raphael. The lack of vocabulary also allows Wanda to describe Raphael as good-looking or beautiful. Brother Raphael, what's in your sleeve? Looking at it, Wanda suddenly noticed that Raphael's sleeves had a weird feeling of bulging. She quietly approached Raphael and asked in a low voice. Raphael was slightly taken aback when he heard the voice behind him. Wanda, what's with your expression? Looking back, he saw Wanda's cautious look on his face, and Raphael was dumbfounded. It is estimated that this girl has discovered Leon, and regards Leon as a secret small weapon or something that cannot be known by Zima's gang. Raphael calmly reached out and touched Wanda's small head, then rolled up his sleeves, and saw a small green lizard wrapped around his forearm. Its name is Leon. Raphael touched Len's head, and Len psychically stuck out his tongue and licked his palm. Wanda fell in love with this cute little chameleon at once. She looked at Raphael eagerly, and obviously wanted to touch Leon. If you want to touch it, try it, it's okay. Raphael smiled and said that sooner or later they would know about Len's abilities, so it's not a bad thing to get acquainted with them in advance. With the approval, Wanda happily teased Len. At this moment, Zima, who was walking at the forefront, withdrew his gaze vaguely. In fact, as early as the first time he saw Raphael, he noticed the abnormality in Raphael's sleeve. At first Zima thought it was a small pistol or a dagger or something, so he was so wary of Raphael as a child. However, the conversation between the two was quite harmonious, and nothing unpleasant happened, and it is normal to hide some self-defense weapons in this world, so Zima didn't ask. It turned out to be a pet, which was beyond Zima's expectations. Looks like I thought too much just now. Did Oneface's betrayal really make me too nervous? Zima sighed imperceptibly. His sense of Oneface is very complicated. On the one hand, he has been suppressed by the other party for a long time. No matter what he has done over the years, he has been firmly held at the level of the colonel. Therefore, many of his subordinates who support Zima have long been sympathetic to Oneface. Dissatisfied. But on the other hand, what few people know is that Zima's first instructor after enlisting in the army is precisely Oneface. At that time, Oneface was very optimistic about Zima, and he always encouraged Zima, even thinking that he would definitely become the best fighter in Sokovia for decades. In all fairness, Zima was grateful to Oneface. Even if he was treated unfairly, he still believed in Oneface. As a result, Oneface chose to betray Sokovia at the most critical time, and Zima suffered a big blow. What Zima didn't know was that when he withdrew his attention to Raphael, Raphael was also secretly relieved. It seems that the super intuition doesn't always fail. From the start, every once in a while, he felt a needle stick on his forehead, which was very uncomfortable. He secretly observed for a long time before he realized that Zima would look back at himself in a vague way every once in a while, and then the feeling of needle stick appeared. At first, he thought that Zima had opened something unknown and saw his secret. It made Raphael tense all the time, ready to start fighting. In the end, I didn't expect that the reason why Zima was suspicious of himself was Len. At this point, the two most nervous people finally relaxed. What no one knew was that another person in the team was also relieved. The distance of 2 miles was not long, and soon everyone arrived at their destination. As long as you cross the forest in front, you can see the river. Because Pietro, who often accompanies his father to go fishing by the river, has turned into a leader, he pointed at a row of trees in front of him in high spirits and said the most inspiring words. The commandos and the Raphael trio walked fast and crossed the dense forest. Then, they saw the military speedboats patrolling back and forth on the river. And obviously, these are not Sokovia's speedboats. How could this be? The Savo River is a long and narrow river, almost halfway around Sokovia. There are too many places that can be used as exits. Why did they block this part of the watershed? Johnny, who was carrying Love behind his back, couldn't believe it. With the sweat on his head and his faintly pale cheeks, an atmosphere of shock and fear arises spontaneously. But actually it was just tiring. Zima frowned tightly. It wasn't that he didn't think about this possibility, but it was indeed too coincidental. Now is not the time to think about this, we have to get out of here quickly. At this time, Raphael stood up with a gloomy face, and Len had already climbed onto his shoulders at some point. The longer we stay here, the more likely the enemy will find us. I saw Raphael grabbed Wanda and Pietro's hands and walked back without looking back. Since you claim to be Sokovya's ace team, you should have the best adaptability, you can advance if you need to advance or retreat, don't hesitate for a second. At this moment, Zima seemed to see the raging flames burning on Raphael's body. An indescribable aura shocked him. Although it was only a momentary picture, it left an indelible impression in his heart. But when he saw the normal expressions of the rest of the team members, he knew that he was the only one who saw the scene just now. Of course, it could also be his hallucination. No, now is not the time to think about it. Zima woke up suddenly, and immediately followed him with his team members. Their movements are fast but everyone's steps are very light, in order to avoid making too much movement. Raphael walked forward with a heavy heart, and unknowingly he became the leader of the team, and even Zima only followed behind him. It's not right, there must be something wrong. Raphael's face was gloomy, and he fell into contemplation. This watershed is very far from the port, and the location is very remote. Generally, not many people will run here. There is no reason for the Hydra to ambush here, unless they have long known about us. No, they should have known about ZE. Don't retreat from here. Thinking of this, Raphael's eyes flashed. The feeling of needle stick just now, isn't the super intuitive feeling aimed at Zima? There are ghosts in the team. Thinking of this, Raphael's heart sank. Before, I would have felt that the inner ghost took Zima's observation of Raphael's eyes as his own, and this guy just aimed at Raphael in order to avoid his sight. Since he is an inner ghost, he naturally won't have any kindness towards Raphael, and his super intuition will automatically remind Raphael. In the end, Raphael mistook Zima for the trigger of hyper-intuitiveness. What should I do, break up with Zima now? Or tell him about the ghost? Raphael's brain turned sharply. No, the presence of an inner ghost means that our whereabouts have been mastered by Hydra, and now it is no different from committing suicide, and this watershed has been blocked, and there is no other way to go except to return to the original road. Even if you take the risk and tell Zeman about the ghost, I'm afraid a battle will not be avoided. Raphael glanced worriedly at Wanda and Pietro. These two little ones will naturally be true Hydras in the future, but now they are just 10-year-old children. Although Wanda's chaotic magic has been awakened, the power of the mind gem is really used to stimulate his abilities. It's a pity that we can't determine who is the inner ghost now. This guy is very careful. After Zima is relieved, he will stop watching. The inner ghost may think that he is temporarily safe and relax a lot. Naturally, it is impossible to release any malice to Raphael, and the super intuition will not be triggered. Yes. Raphael suddenly realized, then let him release malice to me. Our whereabouts have been exposed, and the Hydra people may catch up with us at any time. No, they should be coming to us now, and there is not much time left. Raphael looked around, this place is still hidden, and there is no ambush, so he is here to find out the inner ghost. All stop. Wanda, Pietro is behind me. Raphael turned around and said loudly, and the two little boys ran behind Raphael obediently. Pengele, it's dangerous to stay here. Zima frowned. I know, but it's more dangerous to keep running. Raphael glanced at the commandos. I don't think it's a coincidence that the enemy blocked the river bank. Zima, I suspect that a mouse was mixed in with your people. Little devil, what did you say? The brother who had died together was suspected by a little kid as an insider, and Johnny felt that his violent temper could no longer be suppressed. Raphael glanced at him, then said silently in his heart, real anger, no superfluous emotions. Colonel. Jack and Tom didn't get angry like Johnny did, but anyone with eyes could see that they were in a bad mood too. The hidden anger is no weaker than the exposed one. It seems that they are indeed a team full of trust and deep affection for each other. These three people are not very like ghosts, and when they hear that there may be traitors among them, the first reaction is the same anger, and there is not even a trace of suspicion. Raphael's evaluation of these people has improved a lot. The identity of the inner ghost is: I have worked with the team members for many years, through life and death, through thick and thin. I have a hard time believing that they would betray. Before Zima could finish speaking, Raphael walked towards Johnny, his eyes getting colder and colder. To be precise, he was looking at Love on Johnny's back. Love pretended to look at him naturally. Soon, Raphael felt a strange needle stick on his forehead again, but this time he did not resist or avoid it, but carefully experienced this feeling. Angry, doubt, killing intent, shock, panic. So many negative emotions poured out in an instant. It's not because of you. Why do we believe in you, brat? If there's any real insider, you three brats of unknown origin are the most suspect. Johnny watched Raphael walk towards self step by step, his eyes instantly cold. If you take one step further, I will kill you as an enemy. Don't think I will show mercy to a child. Stop, Johnny. Raphael's eyes moved, and the person who stopped Johnny turned out to be Love. I saw Love stretched out his hand weakly and held down Johnny's wrist where he was trying to draw a gun. He is just a child. I believe he has no ill intentions. The child is just too scared. Johnny, I appreciate your trust in your teammates, but it's stupid to trust someone you shouldn't trust. Raphael sighed slightly. Your name is Love, right? Maybe you thought you were covering up well, but you can't deceive my eyes. It was you who betrayed Zima and the others. Len climbed onto Raphael's hand, and his body changed rapidly, turning into a checkmate CZ75 painted in green in just an instant. This supernatural scene was supposed to be the most shocking, but several of the commandos present were shocked by the remark that Love was an insider. Only the Wanda siblings and Zima noticed this. Who is that child? No, is this really a child? Zima was secretly frightened. At this time, Raphael's attractive aura was getting stronger and stronger. How could a child have such an aura? Zima is not stupid. Love has a lot of unusual little actions along the way, but he didn't pay much attention to it before, and now Raphael thinks about it all when he brings up Zima. Love is indeed suspicious. On Johnny's back, Love wanted to defend himself, but Raphael didn't give him a chance to speak at all. Johnny, if you don't believe me, search him. There must be a bug or a communicator. We have wasted too much time. The enemy may appear here in the next second. There should be no transmitters, otherwise they would have been caught long ago, and they would not have waited for now. Do as he says. Zima affirmed Raphael in time. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Johnny had no choice but to endure his anger and put Love on the ground, then searched his body little by little. What? Suddenly, Johnny let out a scream, and I saw that Love took out a knife at some point and stabbed it into Johnny's left abdomen. Zima, you should have begun to doubt me long ago, why did you not say it until now? Sure enough, this was exactly what Raphael had guessed. In the end, it was the elite commando. The reaction was fast. Jack and Tom seemed to be far away, and they subdued Love the moment Johnny was injured. Tom bound Love's hands, and Jack pulled Johnny aside to bandage the wound. Love's behavior has admitted that he is an insider. Sure enough, there are bugs. Tom searched Love for a long time, and finally found the bug on the inside of his collar. The escape route they discussed for a long time was actually all exposed to the enemy, thanks to the lack of positioning equipment such as a transmitter, or else they would have been enveloped in a short distance. Why? Zima came over and asked with a complicated face. Among the 4 players present, Love was the second longest with him, second only to Johnny. Give it up, I won't let you get any information. Unfortunately, in the face of Zima's question, Love didn't plan to solve his doubts at all, but showed a mad believer's smile. He raised his head and shouted in the most pious tone. "Hydra, long live!" Love's eyes quickly lost color, and the breath of life completely disappeared. Hidden poison in the teeth. After the mission failed, you only need to bite the teeth to kill yourself quickly. This trick has long been no secret. Love died, with all the information and secrets. Aside from the faint sadness of the comrades in arms, none of the people present felt particularly uncomfortable, including the two children Wanda and Pietro. Thinking about it, after seeing the tragic corpse, it is indeed difficult for ordinary corpses to cause them to have too much emotional fluctuation. Raphael is not sure why Hydra wants to deal with Zima. Maybe it has something to do with that general on a fee, or maybe there are other reasons. Anyway, they are in a very dangerous situation now. Hydra eavesdropped on all their conversations, which meant that the other party had already started searching the entire jungle, with a blocked watershed in front and unknown pursuers behind. It is unlikely to be able to retreat safely. Raphael won't regret acting with Zima, not just because things have happened. If they hid in the thorns and waited for Zima and his party to leave, Raphael would still come to this riverbank according to the planned escape route. At that time, it will be their 3 children to deal with the Hydra army. Pengele, how did you know there was something wrong with love? At this time, Zima walked up to Raphael, squatted down, and made his line of sight parallel to Raphael. I have a special ability to sense whether others are malicious to me. Raphael smiled lightly, seeming to be wrong. Yes. Zima didn't seem to have any plans to go deeper. After saying yes, he stood up and greeted back, Johnny, have the wounds been bandaged? You must leave here now. I'm fine. Johnny's face was pale, but his movements were not restricted. Everyone set off quickly, picking a random direction to move forward. Raphael originally wanted to try to see if he could use his super intuition to determine a safe route, but he didn't know if he didn't try. Almost every direction made him feel bad. I don't know if it's a psychological effect or if I'm really surrounded. In short, the group had no choice but to set out on the road in the spirit of breaking through sooner or later. Along the way, Wanda and Pietro did not speak, they just followed Raphael silently, and they did the same thing as Raphael did. Don't look at 9-year-olds, they won't hold back a bit. Mr. Pengele, just now, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your intention. Johnny sneaked up to Raphael's side and apologized hesitantly. Raphael glanced at him in surprise. The old man said sorry, but his face turned red and his voice was so small. If it wasn't for Raphael's good ears, he probably wouldn't have heard what he said. You call me Mr. Pengele. But what surprised Raphael the most was Johnny's name. Although Mr. is suitable for men of all ages, it is not a special name, but it does not prevent Raphael from feeling novel. You don't need to apologize to me. I won't be happy if someone I don't know calls my friend a traitor. Raphael shrugged. You are a real man. Johnny's expression suddenly became serious, and he had already recognized Raphael from the bottom of his heart. Of course, it's not the kind of approval of submission. No matter how awesome a half-aged child behaves, it's still difficult for an adult male to obey. He just no longer sees Raphael as a little boy, but a man who can communicate equally. Wait! All stop! Suddenly, Raphael roared in a low voice, and when everyone heard it, they stopped and entered a state of alert. What's wrong with you? Johnny noticed that Raphael's forehead suddenly burst out with a lot of sweat and couldn't help asking. Raphael is very uncomfortable now, and a strange needle-pricking sensation occupies his brain, similar to when he felt love's malice, but far more serious than then. And there is an ice-cold feeling that goes deep into the bone marrow. Murderous! The enemy is already nearby, prepare to fight. Raphael affirmed. He simply closed his eyes and sensed the surroundings, confirming that the source of the murderous aura was probably in 3 directions. 2 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, they are less than 400 meters away from us. Tom, Jack, one person, one direction. Without saying a word, Zima directly believed Raphael's words, and simply arranged the fighters. Johnny, protect these children. The team members carried out the order resolutely. Jack went to the 2 o'clock direction and hid behind a sturdy tree. Tom was in charge of the 9 o'clock direction, interspersing back and forth among the 3 adjacent trees. As for the 11 o'clock direction, unfortunately, there are not many trees in this straight line to cover the path, but Zima still took the defense here without hesitation. Zima was about to walk towards 11 o'clock when Johnny quickly stepped up to stop him. I'm going to fight too. This voice is not Johnny's. The two turned in surprise, bowed their heads and met Raphael's calm eyes. Raphael is holding the CZ-75 that Leon has turned into in his right hand, and a red bullet in his left hand, the only death bomb at present. Johnny, you were injured just now, it's better not to mess around. Johnny was about to speak when Raphael interrupted him. If Zima and I can't deal with them, even adding you alone won't change the result. Johnny doesn't know where Raphael's confidence comes from, but Zima has witnessed many unimaginable things in Raphael. He knows that Raphael holds some unknown power. Maybe a superpower, or something else. In short, this 12-year-old boy must not be an ordinary person. Help me take care of them. If anything goes wrong, take them away as soon as possible. Facing Wanda and Pietro, Raphael smiled. Like the kind of good brother in the movie who took the initiative to sacrifice himself to create an escape opportunity for his younger siblings. Johnny was moved, and he solemnly promised Raphael, even if they die, I will protect them. On the other hand, the brothers and sisters were quite frightened by Raphael's last words. Wanda directly grabbed Raphael's hand with tears in her eyes. Brother Raphael, just let Clay go, I don't want you to die. The name is Johnny, okay, Raphael rolled his eyes. Wanda, this world is very dangerous. If we want to live a good life, we can never avoid fighting. We must and can only face it. Raphael gently touched Wanda's little head and said softly, trust brother Raphael, I won't die so easily. Although I don't know why, the enemy still didn't catch up to attack after so much delay, but after all, this is beneficial to Raphael's side, so there is no need for doubts. After Raphael's comfort, Wanda finally felt relieved and hid behind with Pietro, while Johnny protected them both. And Raphael, along with Zima, faced the enemy head-on. On the other side, 12 fully armed Hydra agents were divided into 3 teams, gradually approaching the positions of Raphael and the others. 4 people per team, advancing in different directions, exactly as Raphael felt. 4 Sokovia soldiers, 3 children, do we need to take action against these people? What the is Crossbones thinking? One of the younger agents complained of dissatisfaction after seeing all the targets. He is an elite agent of Hydra, and only a real powerful enemy is worth his own shot. I really don't know why Crossbones wants us to capture these guys alive. I can blow their heads right now. The old guy should make way for the young man when he is confused. The young man's complaints suddenly stopped, because the captain next to him had poked the gun in his face. Newcomer, you'd better pay attention to what you say. Lord Crossbones is our leader. If you disrespect him, I can kill you now. His judgment has never been wrong. These people must be worth living. The young agent was silent for a while. As for what he thought in his heart, it was uncertain. Ambition is a good thing. Organizations don't like soft eggs without ambitions, but more important than ambition is value. If you really want to replace Lord Crossbones, show your value to the organization. The captain withdrew his gun and continued to move forward. He did not emphasize loyalty. The reason is very simple. The members who join Hydra will be more or less brainwashed. Maybe they will not be loyal to someone, but they will definitely be loyal to Hydra. Crossbones' real name is Rumlow, and he is one of the veteran members of Hydra. He has lived for many years and maintains his appearance at about 40 years old by taking anti-aging medicines. Before he joined Hydra, he was a very famous mercenary, with world-class fighting ability and shooting ability. Although his status in Hydra is not too high, if he knows that the young man cares about his position, he has 10,000 ways to kill this ignorant boy. Wait, the target has moved. They also divided into 3 teams to move. Are they going to run away separately? No. They came to us, and we were exposed. The 4 agents quickly entered the fighting state, and the other 2 teams were also on alert when they saw this. Are you attacking? Don't worry, play with them first, and remember to stay alive. Zima, they know we found them. Raphael looked at the 4 blurred shadows in front of him and said solemnly. Although the 2 lives are human, although they are used to seeing corpses, this is the first time they have participated in a serious battle. With his small arms and short legs, he was fighting over a dozen well-armed elite agents on the opposite side. It would be impossible not to be nervous. We are ready for defense. If they don't realize that they have been discovered, then we don't have to worry about their lives. Zima's face was as usual, he was used to the days of licking blood with a knife. They're not far from us, why didn't they shoot? After a few seconds, Raphael felt something was wrong. Not sure, maybe they don't think we're threatening and want to play with us a little longer, which is the so-called Katandmuz game. Zima wasn't sure either. Jack and Tom have a lot to say. There are a lot of bunkers, so they have to get close to some battles. There are not many trees on their side to block them, so why not attack directly? Whatever the reason, Raphael couldn't take the initiative to attack, because they didn't have enough firepower. They only had a pistol on them, and they had to get close enough to ensure the hit rate. They don't have much ammo, and every bullet cannot be wasted. It has to be said that the current development is very different from what Raphael expected. He thought that as soon as the other party appeared in his line of sight, or even before he even appeared in his line of sight, a torrent of bullets was already whistling towards him. In the end, there was no fight for a long time. Looking at the death bomb in his hand, Raphael made a decision. Zima. Do you believe that I can deal with them all alone? Raphael smiled confidently. Are you joking? Of course Zima can't believe that no one can defeat 12 elite agents in full armor alone. Do you think you are Captain America? If I beat them all alone, how about you consider me the boss? Raphael's words sounded like a joke, and his expression was similar, but Zima still saw his seriousness from Raphael's eyes. Raphael is throwing an olive branch to Zima. He knows that Zima will not really treat Raphael with the mentality of a family member, and he will not have a sense of belonging to the family. Therefore, Raphael just let Zima recognize himself as the boss first, and then formally set up a family when the time is right. But Raphael is confident that when he builds up the Pengele family little by little, more and more talents will join in, and sooner or later, everyone will be proud of being a member of the family. Okay, if you can really defeat this special team by yourself, it's fine for me to call you the boss. I don't know why, after seeing Raphael's serious eyes, Zima agreed, and he regretted it after he blurted out. No matter how mysterious Raphael behaves, he is still a child after all, and letting a child go to the battlefield still cannot pass the hurdle in his heart. Raphael can't control that much. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. When Zima said good, he loaded the red death gas bomb that he had been holding into the pistol. The death gas bomb is a special bullet that the Pengele family has that can make people gasp for death. The so-called death energy is a kind of idealistic energy in the human body in the form of fire, but it is extremely difficult to use this power, and few people can freely control the flame of death energy. Different people have different flames of death energy, which are divided into 7 different attributes, and the intensity varies from person to person, and there is no absolute upper limit in theory. The flame of death energy is also called the flame of enlightenment. The so-called enlightenment is as powerful as it is. If a person has infinite enlightenment, he will have an infinitely strong flame of death. Of course, this is only theoretical. The existence of the death gas bomb is to temporarily activate the flame of death gas by means of external stimulation. It is a tricky and dangerous method. After all, there are too few people who can achieve death gas transformation through their own will. The state of using death energy bombs to enter the state of death energy is also called death energy mode, which is the first stage of death energy awakening. The main function of the flame of death energy at this stage is to greatly improve physical fitness. As for how to use death bombs, pang! Under Zima's dumbfounded gaze, Raphael pointed the pistol loaded with the death bomb at his forehead and pulled the trigger. Raphael's consciousness instantly became blurred, his life force passed away rapidly, and the whole person fell back to the ground. Damn it! My head hurts. Is this what it's like to die? It's really a little uncomfortable. Crap! I'm not going to die, right? Raphael began to feel everything around him, even his own thoughts became slow, just like slow motion in movies. I'm a little sorry. It's hard to travel through once. I haven't become a boss, I haven't been a girl, I haven't enjoyed a life of drunken life and dream death. I don't want to die. In the dark space of consciousness, Raphael roared piercingly. Phew! Suddenly, a spark lit up between Raphael's eyebrows. Immediately afterwards, a faint glow enveloped Raphael's body. Seeing this miraculous scene, Zima was too shocked to speak. Phew! Call! The spark between Raphael's eyebrows grew bigger and bigger, turning into a flaming flame, covering his entire forehead. The moment the flames ignited, Raphael suddenly opened his eyes and jumped up from the ground. If you open the system to check the attributes at this time, Raphael will find that the unawakened description in the column of the flame of the sky has disappeared. The orange flame of the sky wrapped around Raphael's skin, and his shirt and shoes were quickly burned out. It looks quite bluffing, but in fact, this is a manifestation of too weak control over the flames of death chi, unable to gather the power and can only release it indiscriminately. What? You ask me why my pants are not on fire? Because Raphael was originally wearing shorts, and long pants would not have been spared. After entering the death energy mode, Raphael felt that he was full of powerful strength, like killing a cow with one punch. How is this going? Zima next to him rubbed his eyes and asked dully. We must clear all obstacles in the way with mortal determination. Raphael ignored Zima, and after muttering to himself, his eyes became extremely firm. Then, he threw the gun in his hand at Zima. Zima caught Len, who had returned to his original state in the air, with a bewildered expression, and watched Raphael, who had a bare upper body, rush towards the Hydra agent with bare feet. The speed is as fast as that of top athletes. It is definitely not something that a 12-year-old child can run out of. Wait, I seem to hear music. In the midst of nothingness, some kind of passionate music that seemed to have nothing sounded, and floated into Zima's ears. But when Zima listened carefully, he couldn't hear anything. At this moment, there is only one thought in Raphael's mind, and that is to defeat these Hydra soldiers. This should be regarded as a side effect of the death gas bomb, because the external stimulation caused by the death gas bomb is to put the user in a state of life and death. This strong will to survive can be combined with the power of the death bomb to stimulate the fire of death within the body. If there is no such will, the user will really die. However, because the user cannot control the flame of death well, and the will to survive is too strong, the flame of death will instinctively guide the master to fulfill his last wish before death. In the darkness of the night, the flame on Raphael's forehead was like a beacon in the darkness, instantly attracting everyone's attention. What is that? The young agent of Hydra smacked his tongue. I'm afraid this is not because he wanted to be a human bomb after he set himself on fire, right? Shoot and kill him directly. The captain next to him was calm, no matter what that person wanted to do, he would be honest with a bullet. Then, he also issued attack orders for the special teams in the other two directions. Jack and Tom suddenly got into a tough fight. Bang bang bang! In the jungle, Gunshots were heard everywhere. Raphael, who was running, did not bat an eyelid, and his body swayed slightly to the left and right to avoid all the bullets. In death aura mode, his super intuition also matched his instinct, and he sensed the murderous aura of every enemy clearly. There's something wrong with that kid. The young agent fired several shots in a row without hitting Raphael, and suddenly felt bad. Although his marksmanship can't be regarded as 100 hits, it is impossible for him to miss every shot at a distance of less than 200 meters. Don't aim, shoot him. The captain is not blind, he greeted the other two subordinates early. 4 elite agents fired at the same person, and even Captain America could only rely on shields for defense, and evasion was absolutely impossible. However, Raphael is not Captain America, nor does he have a shield. I saw Raphael's eyes flickering, dodging back and forth quickly, and at the same time, his head, limbs, and waist all moved. Dozens of bullets roared towards Raphael and were dodged by him one by one. The only bullet that hurt Raphael was just a slight rubbing from his cheek, leaving an indiscernible red mark. Even when dodging bullets, Raphael didn't stop moving. In less than 10 seconds, he had already entered within 50 meters of the special agent captain. At this moment, Raphael raised his fists, and after the eye gloves on his hands absorbed enough fire of death energy, the shape changed unexpectedly. The original leather fingerless gloves became armored gloves with a very metallic texture, covering all the fingers, and the gloves were shrouded in a large group of dead fire. The circular armor on the back of the hand has the eye symbol, which symbolizes the first leader of the Pengele family. By this time, Raphael didn't even bother to dodge bullets, but directly used his hands as shields. Even if the eye gloves don't absorb the fire of death, they still have the hardness that bullets can't penetrate, not to mention now. When a wave of bullets came, Raphael threw his fists frantically at a very fast speed, and all the bullets in front of him were thrown into the air. "Sir, the magazine has been emptied, we can't hurt him at all." The young agent who had been ranting just now was panicked, and even started to respectfully call the captain the captain. The captain of the Secret Service was silent, and he didn't know who this person was. He was just a little kid, and it was weird enough to suddenly commit suicide by raising a gun, but this guy actually caught fire and was resurrected on the spot? He asked himself that after working with Hydra for so many years, he had never seen anything strange, and he had never heard of such a thing. No matter what these people thought, Raphael took advantage of the opponent's reloading skills to speed up frantically, and sprinted to the front of the enemy in just a few seconds. A punch slammed into the lower abdomen of one of the agents, Yu reading www.yu. If comm is higher, Raphael will not be able to work hard. The poor agent was hit so hard that he flew 3 meters upside down, and a fist-sized hole was burned in his combat uniform. Fake oil. Another agent roared and rushed over to give away the head. Raphael smiled and took it away. One flew up and kicked it. It flew farther than the last man, and at least 3 ribs were broken by visual inspection. "What kind of freak are you riding a horse?" Behind Raphael, the young agent frantically raised the rifle that had been replaced with a magazine, trying to smash it into a sieve when Raphael was too late to move. Super intuitive. Raphael seemed to have eyes behind his back. The moment the muzzle was aimed at him, his right hand, which was burning with fire in the sky, pinched the barrel of the gun. At this time, his feet hadn't even fully touched the ground. The intense high temperature instantly softened the barrel, and Raphael pushed it down, bending the barrel to nearly 90 degrees. He turned around, jumped up again, punched the young agent in the face, and collapsed to the ground, unconscious. At this time, when Raphael turned to look at the special agent captain, he had committed suicide by taking poison, just like Love before. Mission failure is equal to death, this is Hydra. The other 3 agents were also breathless, and it was not Raphael who killed them. Because Raphael subconsciously took back some of his strength the moment he hit them. Rationally, he understands that he must not be merciful on the battlefield, but in the end, he has never killed anyone in his life, even if he has been prepared. Still hesitant at this point. It is also for this reason that Raphael did not directly fight with the gun that Len turned into. Jack! Suddenly, Zima's roar sounded.